because you know that if as soon as you acknowledge that there's something really wrong,
yeah,
it's gonna hurt really bad.
Welcome, everybody, to the podcast at the Green Beacon, which happens to be an art gallery, but it's so much more than that, because they sell and have all kinds of merchandise, crystals, and all kinds of neat things. It also has become the place where we have done our worship practices. It's a community place. It's the place where I actually teach my powerful masculinity course right here in this room. So it's way, way more than just an art gallery. It is a genuine, great place in the community.
Yeah.
Anything?
I see some clothes over there.
I see there's clothes over there.
And maybe some antiques.
Antiques, yes. And there's a naked guy I'm looking at. So everything. And Emma just got the attention. Hey, let me jump in and just say that one of the big reasons for doing this, at least in my heart personally, I'll let Amber chime in, that men have a tendency to isolate. And I know that we're entering a season of a sabbatical. Everybody knows about that. But
maybe they don't.
Maybe they don't. We are entering a season of a sabbatical, and we don't know what that looks like. But I do know that men have a tendency to isolate, and I'm no different. And so I wanted to create a space where there was some accountability on me to allow people to, into our process and allow you to comment and to ask questions and to still have access to us. So anyway, for me, that's the purpose of it. Anything you want to add?
I think you should share some of the other reasons you thought that this was going to be helpful for you personally.
Yes, it's also helpful for me to be able to process and to be able to stay connected with people, and also for the fact that this is a really, really difficult, challenging season for me. And I've made my daughter's dancing over there really bad. You want to hop on camera? Show everybody your dance? No? Okay. And I feel like it gives me an opportunity to stay connected, and an opportunity to share with people who care. Also, I've been reaching out to people, many people, and pastors. And if I can be honest with you, they're not reaching back. And I do know that we have a community of great people around us. And I'm thinking maybe the people I need to reach out to are the people that God has given us proximity with in relationship. And this is a mode in which, according to the comments or the questions, it's going to cue me in whether anybody's listening or not, and whether it's helpful. So anyway, I did have some content that I wanted to share. So when I started working on my marriage, I realized that the marriage didn't need to change. I needed to change. And that was about a year-long process. And as a consequence of that, the marriage changed. And first of all, it evolved. First, we stopped doing damage. Okay, so we stopped going backwards. Then we neutralized it, meaning that we were not moving forward, but we were at least not doing damage anymore. And then we began to save it, and now we're in the process of healing it. And so it's been great. But what I realized was that I needed to do the same thing as it pertains to me and Amber's calling, because we're not leading well. And this is also what I noticed. Not only did our marriage get better, but also the people that are closest to us, their marriages also began to get better. Even though at first it got worse, because things get worse before they get better, because, you get to the place where you feel like you can actually talk about things that you weren't able to talk about before. So you actually start digging into the real issues that maybe because the relationship was so fragile, you couldn't tackle before. Yeah. Am I accurate in that?
Yeah. Process of healing. Actually, I don't know who wrote the quote. I could probably look it up if I looked real quick. EJ's here. You want to say hi to everybody?
Hi.
It said something like, healing is painful. And if you're not feeling pain, you might not be in a process of healing, which I thought was really interesting, because it's true. You maybe when you are used to a certain type of pain, you kind of become accustomed to it. And I think like the program that you're in teaches that you have certain wounds, you have certain bullets, they're called.
Emotional trauma.
Traumas or wounds or, hurts that you have had for a long time, and your child brain kind of, interprets that as something that you should be, protecting, in a way to survive.
And you blame yourself.
And you kind of or maybe you just, maybe you don't even blame yourself, but sometimes you do.
When you're a child, I think you do, because you don't know anybody else to blame, and that's what creates that wound that later on gets triggered.
Sure, you think something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
But either way, you just kind of lock it away. Your conscious mind kind of locks it away, so you're not very cognizant of what that pain is. You just kind of grow accustomed to it, and it just becomes kind of part of how you function.
Yeah.
But then you kind of get stuck sometimes when you can't move through that pain, or you're not even aware of it. It begins to kind of affect what happens is when you try to get into intimate relationships, into closeness with other people, a lot of times you have behaviors that protect that pain, that cause damage, that hurt people or hurt yourself or hurt environments or make you look stupid or make you look silly or
all that.
Kind of portray something different than who your true nature is. So in order to heal, you have to actually feel that pain, and you have to look at it for what it is. And on the other side of that, though, is healing. And it's almost the same as physical healing. When you have a wound, like the wound that you got when you were playing baseball. I always tell that story because I think it's such a perfect example, like a physical example of what emotional healing is like.
Like they were going to amputate my leg from the knee down.
Do you want to tell that story? Or
No.
do you want me to? I'm going to tell it.
Okay,
So you were playing softball, right? With a church group or
playing
something?
baseball.
Oh, baseball. I thought it was a church group.
It was.
Usually they play softball. Right, Phil?
No, it was overhand.
It was overhand.
It was overhand.
Okay. Anyway, they were playing baseball, and Frank slid into a base, scuffed up the side of his calf real bad, and just kind of, man healed it with some. You're a single guy, right?
Yeah, I was
You're
single.
looking for the scar?
I'm looking for the scar.
Oh my god.
Go ahead. Tell the story.
Yeah, I don't know which leg it. That's it right there.
Right there. See it?
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
So, he went home and just kind of patched it up. I don't know. What did you put, gauze on it or something?
Just wrapped it
You
up.
wrapped it up.
Cleaned it, wrapped it up.
And he was working at a hospital at the time. How old were you? You were
18.
18, 19 years old. Working at a hospital. What were you doing at the time at the hospital?
I was I used to work in the recovery room.
Okay.
Oh, no. I was working in the ER as an orderly.
Okay, so you were an orderly. So anyway, Frank walks in, and a week or so goes by, and he is limping on this leg. And one of the doctors or nurses or something, one of the medical professionals stopped him and said, "Hey, I've noticed that you've been limping a lot. It seems like it's getting worse. What's going on with you?"
I'm like, it's fine.
He's like, "Well, I had this thing happen. I'm taking care of it." They were like, "Well, why don't we just take a look?" So they took a look, and they admitted him immediately because it was getting gangrenous.
Yeah.
And
in
order
there.
in order to begin the process of healing, they had to do what?
Took a literal wire brush, and they just said, hang on to this. It's going to be painful. They didn't numb it, and they took a wire brush, and they had to, like, wire all the flesh away. It was just nasty. Oh my God. Oh, no wonder I don't tell that story.
It's like exfoliating.
Oh,
Exfoliating away death.
It's disgusting.
That's what healing is. So anyway, I always tell that story
Painful
because
process of
like
healing.
you avoided looking at that thing.
Yeah.
You knew kind of in the back of your mind that it was getting worse.
My leg was 3 times bigger. I don't know how he ignored it. It was just, I looked at it when they unwrapped it.
Let's talk about that. How did you ignore it?
I looked the other way.
Why did you do that?
Because this is what I've done all my life until a year ago.
It's such a perfect story. It's a great example because you know that if as soon as you acknowledge that there's something really wrong,
Yeah.
it's going to hurt really bad.
Oh, yeah.
Or it's going to be embarrassing. Or it's going to be devastating. You know, like name whatever emotion you're avoiding feeling. But it's if they hadn't done that, if someone hadn't have been like, hey, I've noticed you haven't been at church lately. I've noticed when I see you, like, you just haven't been yourself. Like, what's going on with you?
Yeah.
And then maybe taking even a further step and being like, well, I'd like to maybe talk about what's going on with you. I don't know. However you relate that to, like, relationships.
Is an act of care, you know, because that doctor, they told me I was within days of having to have my leg amputated from the knee down. So somebody cared, and instead of me getting all defensive, no, I got it. Oh, no, I don't want to be exposed. I don't want you to unwrap that. I don't want to be embarrassed. I'd rather avoid the issue. Then I would have limped for the entirety of my life.
I mean, you might have lost your leg
because somebody cared. Because somebody actually cared. Yeah.
So anyway, emotional healing.
So that's what's
avoidance of pain. You deal with that numbing pain. It's like you're trading one pain for another. Yeah. But what the pain that of letting go of, you know, the whatever it might be. Maybe it's a thought process. Maybe it's a belief system that you have. Maybe it's, you know, whatever it is, an addiction that's causing harm to you or harm to people around you. The process of letting go and letting healing come is actually maybe more of an acute pain than the dull sensation of just it kind of being part of living who you are. Yeah. But on the other side of that pain is the healing. Yes. There's a difference. There's the pain of healing and the pain of the wound. So one will lead you to no pain. Right. And the other will just continue to get worse and worse. Yeah, until things fall apart. So to relate it back to why we're doing this, so that has happened in our marriage. So we are, circle around into a good place. But I feel like that needs to happen now in the solidification of our calling together. Because I'll be honest, we just had a conversation yesterday that went really poorly. And it seems like when my wife and I have conversations, they go pretty well because we're able to communicate. And we both have healed from our relationship in many ways. But when my wife and I try to have a conversation about ministry, Pastor gets triggered. And then it just kind of unravels, and it's not good. And this is why we've had to take a step back from doing live services, so that we can begin to that painful process of healing and apply that towards our calling in the way that we lead, in the way that we minister, in the way that we pastor. And that's the bottom line. And the podcast is there just to provide. So here's what's happened: as our marriage began to heal, the people who were closest to us, their marriages also began to heal and begin to address some things. And my hope, if God ever wants us to not resurrect, because you corrected me on that, because the resurrection is the coming back of the prior, but if God ever decides that we start a new church with a new name and a new vision, it's going to have to be from a place where we have both been healed and whole. Because I've never been really interested in having a large church, but I am really aggressively trying to pursue having a healthy church. And I realize that unless I heal when it comes to ministry, my wife heals, and we become a united force in a united front, we're not going to be able to have a healthy church. So here we are, engaged in that process, and part of the podcast is to watch you
see it, because if you are being led by pastors who are healed, then we're going to have leaders who are healed, and they're going to be able to lead teams who are healed, and then we're going to finally be able to look at a church and say, this is holy because it's whole and because it's healed. Let me see. Oh, one more thing. Is it one more thing? Yeah, that's it. Just one more thing, I would say, just because it's so closely connected to my car currently. We don't even know if doing this podcast is the right thing, you know? And like I said, Amber was a little apprehensive about it. I want to just trying to be an open book, and according to your comments and questions, and, you know, we'll be able to gauge if there's any involvement, because if there isn't, then we're not going to do this. We got better things to do with our time. But to me, I'm not going to know that until we started. Right now, currently, my car is leaking power steering fluid. And when it gets real low, I cannot steer it. I can't turn the wheel. And the only way I'm able to steer it is if I give it a little gas and create a little forward motion. And to me, this is what this is. It's creating a little forward motion so that we can have some direction as to where this sabbatical is going to lead us. And that's really all I have to say. Anything else?
Well, I appreciate your willingness to do something different, to do something new.
Yeah.
I think that is really great. So I'm excited to be here. I think it'd be cool maybe sometime to interview some other people.
Yeah.
Some of the people who've been part of our process, or, you know, have maybe their own story to tell about healing. And it's probably going to be a huge topic if we continue this, is healing, emotional healing, spiritual healing.
Spiritual healing, yep.
Maybe physical healing.
Physical healing, yeah. And so what I would ask is that the content of the questions that you ask, or the interactions or the involvements, will actually dictate the direction of where we go. So if there's something that you'd like to know or hear about, let us know. Otherwise, we'll just show up on a weekly basis. Honest, we're trying to keep these so they're not terribly long. I think that's good. And that'll be it. We'll see you guys next week, unless you want to say anything else.
That's it.
Okay. Oh, wait. EJ, you want to say bye to everybody?
Say goodbye to the. We're on camera and on audio.
Bye.
Look at the camera.
Goodbye.
All right. Love you. Oh, God. Okay. Love you guys. See you next week.